The 3 days before the wedding felt like 3 years. Queen Nari refused to speak to Tai at all. Every communication went through old Dai or other court officials. She approved the ceremony details with cold efficiency, making sure everything followed proper Valoran tradition. The message was clear. She would honor her oath, but she would give nothing more than what was required. Tai spent most of his time learning about Valoran culture and customs. Day proved to be a patient teacher, explaining the history of the empire, the meaning behind various traditions, and what would be expected during the wedding ceremony. "The ceremony is quite beautiful," Day said one afternoon as they sat in the palace gardens. Both partners speak the ancient vows, pledging loyalty and partnership. Then they share the unity cup, symbolizing the joining of two lives into one. "Does the queen know what the ceremony means?" Tai asked, "about partnership and unity?" Day smiled sadly. "She knows. That is part of why she is so angry. Valoran marriages are sacred bonds. She cannot simply ignore you after the ceremony. The law requires mutual respect and cooperation between married partners. You have trapped her quite thoroughly." "I did not want to trap her. I wanted to change her mind. Those may be the same thing from her perspective." On the second day, Tai received an unexpected visitor. Hana came to his quarters, ducking through the doorway designed for humans rather than 8-foot Valorans. "I wanted to speak with you," she said, her forearms crossed in a gesture that could mean either defensiveness or casual conversation. "About the chess game." "What about it?" Tai asked, gesturing for her to sit. She did, though the human furniture looked comically small beneath her. "How did you beat me?" "I learned everything I could in one night. I studied openings, tactics, endgames. I thought I understood the game." "You did understand the game," Tai said. "You played remarkably well for someone who just learned. Most humans who have played for years could not have given me the challenge you did. But I still lost. Because chess is not just about knowing the rules or even the tactics. It is about experience, about pattern recognition. I have played thousands of games over 30 years. I have seen positions like the ones we reached. I knew which plans worked and which did not. You had one night. I had a lifetime." Hana was quiet for a moment, processing this. "So even if I learn faster, train harder, think deeper, you would still win because you have more experience?" "In chess, probably yes. But that does not mean you are inferior, Hana. It just means I have had more practice at this one specific thing. I am sure there are many things you could do better than me." "Like what?" "Like commanding in battle. Like hand-to-hand combat. Like inspiring loyalty in soldiers. These are your strengths, not mine." Hana tilted her head, considering. "You do not think humans are superior to Valorans?" "No, I think we are different. We have different strengths. That is why I wanted the trade agreement. Both species could benefit from what the other offers." "Is that really why you asked to marry the queen? To teach her this lesson?" Tai hesitated. "Partly. But also because I was angry. She tried to humiliate me and my entire species. Part of me wanted her to feel what that was like." Hana appreciated the honesty. "She is very angry with you." "I know. But she is also confused. No one has ever beaten her like this before. She does not know how to respond." "What should I do?" Hana stood up, her head nearly touching the ceiling. "Be patient. The queen is proud, but she is not stupid. If you give her time and space, she may eventually see what you are trying to show her. But if you push too hard, she will only resist more. Thank you for the advice. I did not give it for you. I gave it because the empire needs stability. A queen at war with her husband creates problems for everyone." But as Hana left, Tai thought he saw something else in her expression, curiosity perhaps, or maybe a hint of respect. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather, as if the universe itself wanted to witness this historic event. The ceremony was held in the Grand Hall, the largest chamber in the palace. Every important Valoran in the empire attended, along with representatives from dozens of other species. Cameras broadcast the event across all 14 star systems. Tai wore formal Valoran ceremonial robes, adapted to fit his smaller frame. They were deep purple and black, matching the colors of the empire. He stood at the altar, waiting. Then Queen Nari entered, and the entire hall went silent. She was magnificent. Her ceremonial armor had been polished until it gleamed like starlight. Her crown sat perfectly on her head, and her 4 arms were adorned with the royal bangles that had been worn by every Valoran queen for 3,000 years. She walked with perfect dignity, her face showing no emotion at all. She stood beside Tay at the altar. The height difference was significant, but Tay kept his eyes forward, matching her dignity with his own. Old Day performed the ceremony, speaking the ancient words in the old Valoran tongue. Tay had memorized his vows phonetically, not wanting to stumble over the pronunciation. When it was time, Nari spoke first. I pledge my loyalty and partnership. I accept this union as binding before the law and the throne. Her voice was perfectly controlled, giving away nothing. Tay spoke next. I pledge my loyalty and partnership. I accept this union as binding before the law and the throne. He meant every word, even if she did not believe him. They shared the Unity Cup, a ceremonial drinking vessel that had been used in royal weddings for centuries. As their hands touched on the cup, Tay felt how tense Nari was. Every muscle was rigid, controlled. By the ancient laws and the authority of the Crimson Throne, Day announced, I declare you bound in partnership. May your union bring strength to the Empire. The hall erupted in polite applause. It was done. A Valoran queen had married a human. The impossible had happened. That night, they returned to the royal chambers. Nari had made it clear they would have separate sleeping quarters within the suite, but they were expected to share the main living space. The moment the doors closed, cutting them off from the rest of the palace, Nari turned on Tay. I hate you, she said, her voice shaking with suppressed rage. I hate you for trapping me like this. I hate you for using our laws against us. I hate you for making me look weak in front of my entire empire. I know, Tay said quietly. Do you? Do you really understand what you have done? I am a queen. I have never bowed to anyone. I have never shown weakness. And now, because of you, my people see me as someone who can be manipulated and controlled. That is not what they see. Then what do they see? They see a queen who honors her oaths, even when it costs her dearly. They see someone who values the ancient laws more than her own comfort. That is not weakness, Nari. That is strength. She stared at him, her black eyes unreadable. You speak pretty words, but words mean nothing. This changes nothing between us. I fulfilled my oath. I married you, but do not expect anything more. We will live in the same space, but separate lives. You will not command me. You will not control me. You will not change me. I do not want to change you, Tay said. I just want you to see humans as equals, not as inferior beings. That will never happen. We will see. Nari turned away, walking to her private chambers. Stay out of my way, human. That is all I ask. The door closed behind her, leaving Tay alone in the main room. He looked around at the beautiful chambers, at the artwork and furniture that spoke of 3,000 years of culture and achievement. He had won the game. He had married the queen. But he had not won her respect and certainly not her friendship. That he knew would take much longer. Days turned into weeks. Tay made no demands on Nari. He attended council meetings when invited, but did not push to be included. He explored the palace, learning its history. He was polite to everyone he met, from high nobles to cleaning staff. Slowly, some of the Valorans began to warm to him. He helped a young diplomat prepare a presentation, sharing insights about human culture. He played chess with servants during breaks, teaching them the game. He asked questions about Valoran technology and listened carefully to the answers. Nari watched all of this with suspicion. She expected him to abuse his position, to demand privileges, to act like the conqueror he was. Instead, he acted like a guest who wanted to learn. It confused her. One evening, 6 weeks after the wedding, an emergency arose. A mining colony in the outer rim had suffered a massive collapse. 300 workers were trapped deep underground. The rescue teams estimated it would take 3 weeks to dig them out. The workers had enough air for maybe 10 days. The council met in emergency session. Nari listened to the reports, her face grim. What are our options? We can try to drill from multiple angles, one general suggested. But the rock is extremely dense. Even with our best equipment, we cannot move fast enough. Tay had been sitting quietly in the corner, allowed to observe but not participate. Now he spoke up. Your Majesty, may I offer a suggestion? Every eye in the room turned to him. Nari's expression was cold. Speak. Human mining equipment uses sonic resonance drills. They can cut through dense rock much faster than conventional tools. My ship has some in cargo. If you allow it, I can have them transported to the mining colony. We might save those workers. The council erupted in debate. Some argued it was a trick that human technology could not possibly be better than Velaran. Others pointed out. The chaos in the throne room was immediate and complete. Guards rushed toward the platform, weapons drawn. Courtiers shouted in outrage. Some Velarans roared challenges at the human. The noise was deafening, a wave of anger and disbelief that shook the very walls. Queen Nari stood motionless on her throne, her black eyes locked on Tai. Her 4 hands trembled with rage. Every instinct screamed at her to order his death, to have him torn apart right there on the platform. She could do it. One word, and he would be dead before he could take another breath. But Old Day raised one hand and his voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Silence. The hall went quiet. Day was ancient and frail, but his authority was absolute. He had served 3 queens before Nari. He knew the laws better than anyone alive. Your Majesty, Dai said carefully, the human's request falls within the bounds of the ancient laws. A monarch's hand in marriage is within their power to grant. This is an insult, one of the generals shouted. He mocks us. He mocks our queen. The law does not care about insult, Day replied firmly. Only about what was sworn and what can be granted. Queen Nari gave her oath before thousands of witnesses. She swore on the honor of the Crimson Throne. She invoked the ancient laws. There is no ambiguity here. Nari finally found her voice. You would use our own laws against us? You would trap me like this? Tay met her eyes without fear. You wanted to trap me. You wanted to humiliate me in front of my entire species. You wanted me to kneel and say that humans are inferior. Now you understand how that feels. I could have you killed, Nari said, her voice low and dangerous. Ancient laws or not, I could order your death right now. You could, Tay agreed, but then you would be an oathbreaker. Every Velaran in this room heard your promise. They know the ancient laws. If you break your word, what happens to your authority? What happens to your empire when your own people cannot trust your oaths? Day nodded slowly. He speaks truth, Your Majesty. The ancient laws exist because they bind rulers as well as subjects. If you break this oath, the noble houses will question everything. Some may rebel. The empire could fracture. Nari's hands clenched into fists. She had ruled for 10 years through strength and absolute authority. She had never shown weakness. She had never backed down from anything. And now this human, this small, weak creature, had trapped her with her own pride. Why? She demanded. Why ask for this? You could have requested anything. Technology, territory, wealth. Why marriage? Because you need to learn something, Tay said calmly. You need to learn that other species are not inferior to you. Not through words, but through experience. You tried to humiliate me to prove Velaran superiority. I could do the same to you now. I could demand that you kneel and acknowledge human superiority. But that would teach you nothing. So you demand marriage instead? Nari's laugh was bitter. You think forcing me to marry you will teach me respect? I think it will force you to see humans as people, not as inferior beings. And I think that is more valuable than any trade agreement. The throne room remained silent. Every Velaran present understood what was happening. Their queen, their powerful and feared queen, had been outmaneuvered. The human had won not through strength but through cleverness. He had used their own laws, their own honor against them. Some felt anger. Some felt respect. Many felt both. Hana, standing among the crowd, watched with interest. She had lost to this human in chess. Now she was seeing him win a larger game, a game of politics and law and honor. Part of her wanted to hate him. Another part wanted to understand him better. What guarantee do I have, Nari said slowly, that this is not just another humiliation? That you will not parade me before the galaxy as your trophy? You have my word, Tay replied. I will treat you with the respect due to a queen and a wife. I will honor Veloran customs. I will not mock you or use this marriage to hurt you. That is not my goal. Then what is your goal? Peace. Understanding. A bridge between our peoples. Nari wanted to laugh at that, but something in his expression stopped her. He was serious. He actually believed he could change things through this forced marriage. You are either very wise or very foolish, she said. Perhaps both. Old Day stepped forward again. Your Majesty, you must decide. The ancient laws are clear. You gave your oath. You must fulfill it or break it. There is no third option. Nari looked around the throne room, at the guards, at the courtiers, at the thousands of her people watching through screens. She saw their faces. They were waiting to see what she would do, waiting to see if their queen would honor her word or break it to avoid embarrassment. She thought about the empire her ancestors had built. 3,000 years of honor and strength. The Veloran people valued many things, but above all they valued their word. An oath spoken before witnesses was sacred. To break it was to lose everything, but to keep it meant marrying a human. Meant binding herself to a species she had considered beneath her. Meant admitting that she had been outplayed. The choice was impossible. Both paths led to humiliation, but only one path preserved her honor. Very well, Nari said, and each word felt like swallowing glass. I accept your request, Commander Tay. We will be married according to Veloran custom. The ceremony will take place in 3 days. The throne room erupted again, but this time the noise was different. Shock, confusion, some grudging approval from the older Velorans who valued honor above pride. Tay bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Majesty. Do not thank me, Nari said coldly. You have won this game, human. But understand this, I will fulfill my oath because I must. I will marry you because the law demands it. But do not expect love. Do not expect kindness. You will be my husband in name only. We will live separate lives within the palace walls. Is that understood? Perfectly, Tay said. Nari turned to her guards. Escort Commander Tay to the guest quarters. He will remain there until the wedding. No one is to harm him. He is under my protection now, as much as I hate to say it. As the guards surrounded Tay and led him from the platform, Nari sank back onto her throne. She felt exhausted, drained in a way that no battle had ever left her. She had been queen for 10 years. She had crushed rebellions, conquered systems, and ruled with absolute authority. And now she had been defeated by a game of chess and her own pride. Old Day approached her throne. You made the right choice, Your Majesty. Did I? I feel like I just surrendered my empire. You preserved your honor. That is worth more than pride, is it? We shall see. In the crowd, Hana pushed her way through to find Day. What happens now? She asked. Now we prepare for a wedding, Day said with a sigh. The first wedding between a Veloran queen and a human. The galaxy will be watching. Do you think this will work? Whatever the human is planning? Day looked at her with his ancient eyes. I think, Hana, that we are about to learn whether wisdom can overcome prejudice. Whether understanding can bridge the gap between species. Whether two people who hate each other can find common ground. That seems impossible. Many things seem impossible until they happen. You learned that today, did you not? Hana thought about the chess game, about how certain she had been of victory. Yes, I suppose I did. 3 days. In 3 days, Queen Nari would marry a human. The thought sent ripples of shock through the entire empire. Some called it a scandal. Others called it a tragedy. A very few, called it interesting. And in his quarters, Tay sat alone, knowing that the truly hard part was just beginning. Winning the game had been difficult. Winning the queen's heart would be nearly impossible, but he had to try. For humanity, for peace, and perhaps, just perhaps, for something more. The royal hall was more crowded than it had been in years. News of the contest had spread throughout the entire station during the night. Thousands of Velorans packed into the viewing galleries, hanging from railings and pressing against walls. Those who could not fit inside watched through screens that had been set up in every corridor and chamber. They had all come to see the same thing. A human being put in his place. The throne room had been transformed. A large platform stood in the center, raised high enough that everyone could see. On top of the platform sat a chess table, simple and elegant with the pieces already arranged in their starting positions. The board was enlarged and projected onto massive screens hanging from the ceiling, so the entire crowd could follow every move. Queen Nari sat on her throne, surrounded by her court. She wore her full ceremonial armor today, black and purple scales that caught the light like metal. Her crown seemed heavier, more imposing. She wanted everyone to remember who ruled here. Old Day stood beside her throne, his face troubled. He had tried all morning to warn her about the binding nature of her oath, but Nari refused to listen. She was certain of victory. The human would lose, would kneel, would humiliate his entire species. There was no other possible outcome. Hana entered from the east door and the crowd erupted in cheers. She was a hero to her people, a legend in her own time. She had fought in the Kalos Wars and the Siege of Ren. She had won the grand tournament on 7 different worlds. She walked to the platform with her head high, acknowledging the cheers with a slight nod. Then Tay entered from the west door, and the crowd fell silent. He wore the same simple uniform as before, dark blue with silver bars. He carried nothing, no weapons, no devices. Just himself. He walked calmly to the platform and climbed the steps. As Tai reached the top, Hana was already seated. They faced each other across the board. The difference in size was striking. Hana, with her 4 arms and 8-foot frame, looked like she could crush the entire table. Tai looked small and fragile by comparison. "We draw for color," Tai said, holding out 2 hands, fists closed. "One has a white pawn, one has black. White moves first." Hana tapped his left hand. Tai opened it to reveal a black pawn. "You have white," Tai said. "You move first." Hana nodded and studied the board. She had practiced openings all night. She knew the names, the Italian game, the Spanish opening, the Queen's Gambit. She chose one she understood well and moved her pawn to e4. "The King's Pawn opening." Tai responded immediately, moving his own pawn to e5, the most common response. The game had begun. For the first 10 moves, everything went as Hana expected. They both developed their pieces, bringing knights and bishops into play. The position was balanced, equal. Hana felt confident. She was controlling the center of the board, just as the tactics books had taught her. But then Tai made a move that confused her. He pushed a pawn forward, offering it to one of her knights. It looked like a mistake. She could capture the pawn for free, winning material. Hana thought for a moment. Was it a trap? She studied the position carefully, but could not see any danger. She took the pawn. Tai smiled slightly and moved his bishop. Suddenly Hana saw it. By taking the pawn, she had opened a line for Tai's pieces to attack. Her knight was now in danger, and if she moved it, his bishop would attack her rook. She had been tricked, the crowd murmured. Those Velerans who had learned chess during the night began to understand what was happening. The human had sacrificed a small piece to gain a larger advantage in position. Hana's eyes narrowed. She was not angry, just focused. She moved her knight to safety, accepting that she would lose some tempo. The game continued. By move 20, Hana realized she was in trouble. Every move Tai made seemed to have multiple purposes. He was not just attacking, he was controlling. He was limiting her options, forcing her pieces into worse and worse positions. She tried to break free, to launch her own attack, but every time she pushed forward, she found weaknesses in her own position that she had to defend. Queen Nari leaned forward on her throne. She could see the board projection clearly. The human's pieces were working together like a machine. Hana's pieces were scattered, disconnected, forced to react instead of attack. This was not supposed to happen. "Come on, Hana," Nari whispered. On the platform, Hana was thinking harder than she ever had in her life. She had fought in wars where one wrong decision meant death. She had commanded fleets where millions of lives depended on her choices. But this game was different. In battle, she could rely on instinct, on training, on her physical abilities. Here, there was only her mind against his, and his mind had been playing this game for decades. Tai sacrificed another pawn, then a knight. The crowd gasped. He was giving away pieces, losing material, but each sacrifice brought his remaining pieces into better positions. His bishops controlled long diagonals. His rooks were on open files. His queen was perfectly placed in the center. Hana's king was beginning to feel exposed. She tried everything she had learned. She traded pieces to simplify the position. She built defensive walls with her pawns. She looked for counterattacks, for ways to create threats of her own. And to her credit, she found some. There were moments when Tay had to stop attacking and defend his own king, but it was not enough. By move 40, they had reached the endgame. Most of the pieces were gone from the board. Hana had a rook, a bishop, and 5 pawns. Tay had a rook, a knight, and 4 pawns. Material was roughly equal. But position was everything. Tay's king marched up the board, active and powerful in the endgame. Hana's king was trapped on the back rank, unable to help her pieces. Tay's rook and knight worked together, creating threats that Hana could barely defend against. She fought brilliantly. She found defensive moves that made Tay pause and recalculate. She set traps that almost worked. The crowd, which had started the game expecting easy victory, now watched in tense silence. Some of them began to realize what was about to happen. Hana saw it first. She looked at the position and ran through every possible variation in her mind. Every move, every response, every possibility. And in every line, every single one, she lost. It was just a matter of time. Her 4 hands gripped the edge of the table. She had never felt this before. Defeat. Inevitable, unstoppable defeat. Tay moved his knight, placing it on a square that attacked 3 different pieces at once. Hana could save 1, maybe 2, but not all 3. The position collapsed. 5 moves later, Tay's rook and knight worked together to trap Hana's king in the corner. There was no escape. No matter which square the king moved to, it would be captured. Checkmate, Tay said quietly. The word echoed in the massive hall. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Hana stared at the board. She ran through the variations one more time, desperate to find an escape she had missed. But there was none. She was defeated. Slowly, she stood up. Her face showed no anger, no shame, only the acceptance of a warrior who had fought well but lost. You played better than me, Hana said, her voice carrying across the silent hall. I have no excuses. You won fairly. She bowed to Tay, a gesture of respect between warriors. Tay stood and returned the bow. You learned the game in one night and nearly beat me. That is impressive, but not impressive enough. Not today. Hana turned and walked off the platform, her head still high despite the loss. The crowd parted for her in silence, not knowing how to react. She had been undefeated her entire life, until now. All eyes turned to the throne. Queen Nari sat frozen, her 4 hands gripping the arms of her throne so hard the metal was starting to bend. Her face was a mask of controlled fury. She had been so certain, so absolutely certain that the human would lose. Old Day stepped closer to her and whispered, Your Majesty, the ancient laws require— I know what they require, Nari snapped. She stood up slowly, every eye in the hall on her. The silence was absolute. Thousands of Velerans waited to see what their queen would do. Tay stood calmly on the platform, waiting. He had won the game. Now came the harder part. You have won, human, Nari said, her voice like ice. Each word seemed to cost her something. According to the ancient laws, according to my oath spoken before witnesses, I must grant you any request within my power. She paused, hoping he would ask for something simple. Mining rights, technology, money, anything but, I request your hand in marriage, Queen Nari. The throne room exploded. Queen Nari returned to her throne, satisfaction flowing through her like warm wine. The human had walked right into her trap. Now she would teach him and his entire species a lesson about their place in the galaxy. Guards, she called out, bring me Hana. A murmur ran through the throne room. Everyone knew that name. Hana the undefeated, Hana the unstoppable, Hana who had never lost a single combat in her entire life. The massive doors at the side of the chamber opened, and Hana walked through. She was tall even for a Veleran, standing close to 8 feet. Her body was pure muscle, built from years of training and countless battles. Scars covered her arms and face, each one a story of victory. She wore simple combat armor, black and functional with no decoration. She did not need decoration. Everyone knew who she was. Her 4 arms hung loosely at her sides, but Tay could see how they moved with liquid grace. Each hand looked like it could crush stone. Her eyes, completely black like all Valorans, locked onto the human with professional interest. You called for me, my queen? Hana's voice was deep and calm. This human has challenged our empire. Nari said, gesturing at Tai. He believes his species is worthy of our respect. I have invoked the trial by excellence. You will face him in a contest of his choosing. When you defeat him, he will acknowledge our superiority before the entire court. Hana studied Tai for a long moment. She had fought warriors from dozens of species. She had killed monsters that gave nightmares to soldiers. This human looked soft and weak by comparison. She could break him in half without effort. As you command, Your Majesty, Hana said, bowing. Nari turned her attention back to Tai. Choose your contest, human. Choose carefully. It will not save you, but at least you can die knowing you tried your best. Tai had been thinking about this from the moment he accepted the challenge. He could not beat a Valoran in any physical contest. They were stronger, faster, and tougher than humans. He could not beat them in endurance, in combat, in any sport or game of strength. But there were other kinds of strength. Chess, Tai said clearly. The word meant nothing to the Valorans. They looked at each other in confusion. Even Hana tilted her head, not understanding. What is this chess? Nari demanded. It is a game from Earth, Tai explained. A game of strategy and tactics. 2 players face each other across a board with 64 squares. Each player has 16 pieces with different abilities. The goal is to trap your opponent's king so it cannot escape. We call this checkmate. He pulled out a small device from his pocket and projected a hologram of a chessboard into the air between them. The pieces appeared in their starting positions, black and white. Kings and queens and knights and pawns. The game requires no physical strength. Tai continued. No speed, no endurance. Only intelligence, planning, and the ability to think many moves ahead. Each player must anticipate what the other will do and respond accordingly. Nari leaned forward, studying the hologram. She saw the pieces, saw how they were arranged. It looked simple. Too simple. This is a children's game, she said dismissively. It is a game that has existed on Earth for over 1,000 years. Tai replied. We use it to train military officers in tactical thinking. It is simple to learn, but takes a lifetime to master. Old Day stepped closer to examine the hologram. His ancient eyes narrowed. Your Majesty, this appears to be a game of pure strategy, similar to our own tactical exercises. Then Hana will crush him at it, Nari said. Hana graduated at the top of her class from the Imperial War College. She has studied tactics and strategy her entire life. She has commanded fleets in battle. This little game will be nothing to her. Hana continued to study the board. She was not as confident as her queen. Something about the game intrigued her. The pieces had different movement patterns, different values, different roles. It was like commanding a small army. But the rules were foreign to her, the strategies unknown. How long do I have to learn this game? Hana asked. Tai smiled. The contest is tomorrow. You have 1 night. 1 night? Nari laughed. You give us only 1 night to learn your game and you think this gives you an advantage? Hana can learn anything in 1 night. Her mind is as sharp as her blade. I am sure it is, Tai said politely. Nari stood up again, all 4 arms spread wide. Very well, human. We accept your challenge. Tomorrow, before the entire court, you will face Hana in this game of chess. When you lose, you will kneel and speak the words I command. You will say, the Valoran Empire is superior to humanity in all ways. We are not worthy to stand in your presence. We beg for your mercy and your favor. The words were designed to humiliate not just Tai but all of humanity. Every species in the galaxy would hear about this. Earth would become a joke, the weak species that challenged the mighty Valorans and lost. Tai felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his face calm. And if I win? The throne room went completely silent. Nari's smile became dangerous. If you win, which you will not, I will grant you any single request within my power. This I swear on the honor of the Crimson Throne and by the ancient laws of our people. Old Day went pale. He tried to step forward to warn the queen, but it was too late. The words were spoken. In Valoran culture, an oath spoken before witnesses was absolutely binding. If the queen broke her word, she would lose all legitimacy. Her empire would collapse into civil war. Nari saw Day's expression but did not care. There was no way the human could win. She was being generous by even offering such terms. I accept these terms, Tai said, bowing. Good. Hana, take this device. Learn the game. Tomorrow, destroy him. Hana took the hologram projector from Tai. Their hands touched briefly. Hers was easily twice the size of his, rough with calluses from weapons training. I look forward to our match. Hana said. There was no mockery in her voice, no cruelty. Just professional courtesy. As do I, Tay replied. As Tay was escorted from the throne room to his quarters, Hana stood before the hologram, studying the pieces. She had all night to learn this game. All night to master it. She was Hana the undefeated. She had never lost at anything. She did not intend to start now. In her private chamber, she began to move the pieces, learning how each one traveled across the board. Knights moved in an L shape. Bishops moved diagonally. Rooks moved in straight lines. The queen, the most powerful piece, moved in any direction. The king, despite being the most important piece, could only move one square at a time. For hours she practiced. She played against the computer, losing her first 20 games as she learned the basics. But then she started to understand. She saw patterns. She saw tactics. The fork, the pin, the skewer. Ways to attack two pieces at once. Ways to trap enemy pieces against their own allies. By midnight, she was winning half her games against the computer. By dawn, she was winning 3 out of 4. She understood the rules now. She understood the tactics. She even understood some of the strategy. But what Hana did not know, could not know, was that chess was more than rules and tactics. Chess was about experience. It was about the thousands of games that had been played over centuries. The openings that had been refined. The endgames that had been studied and memorized. Chess was about knowing not just what worked, but what had worked for 1,000 years. And Tay had been playing chess since he was 5 years old. When morning came, Hana walked to the throne room with confidence. She had learned the game. She would win. But in his quarters, Tay was meditating, preparing his mind. He knew this was about more than winning a game. This was about respect. This was about showing that humanity deserved a place among the stars. This was about proving that strength came in many forms. The contest was about to begin. The massive space station orbited a red giant star, its metal surface gleaming like a crown in the crimson light. This was the heart of the Valoran Empire, home to Queen Nari, the youngest and most feared ruler the galaxy had seen in centuries. 14 star systems bowed to her will, countless worlds paid tribute to her throne, and no one, absolutely no one, challenged her authority and lived to speak of it. Inside the royal station, the throne room stretched as wide as a city block. Purple banners hung from the ceiling, each one showing the symbol of the Crimson Throne. Guards stood at attention every 10 feet, their forearms holding weapons that could cut through steel like paper. At the far end of the room, elevated on a platform of black stone, sat Queen Nari herself. She was beautiful in the way a predator was beautiful. Her skin was the color of midnight with hints of deep purple running through it like veins. She had 4 arms like all Valorans, each one long and graceful but packed with muscle that could crush bone. Her eyes were completely black without any white showing, and they saw everything. She wore armor made of scales that seemed to absorb light, and a crown of twisted metal that looked more like a weapon than jewelry. Today she was bored. The usual business of empire did not interest her. Trade disputes, mining quotas, military reports, all of it was handled efficiently by her staff. She wanted something different, something exciting, something that would remind the galaxy why they feared her name. Then the doors opened and a human walked in. Queen Nari sat up straighter. Humans were rare this far into Valoran space. They were a young species, barely 200 years since their first clumsy ships had left their homeworld. Most of the galaxy considered them weak and insignificant. They had no great empire, no powerful weapons, no special abilities. They were just small, soft creatures who talked too much and died too easily. This human walked across the throne room like he owned it. He was tall for a human, though still shorter than the smallest Valoran. He wore a simple uniform, dark blue with silver bars on the shoulders. His hair was black and cut short. His face was calm, showing no fear at all as he approached the throne. The guards moved to block him, but Nari raised one hand. She wanted to see what this creature would do. The human stopped at the proper distance and bowed, not too deep, not too shallow. Just enough to show respect without showing weakness. Queen Nari, he said in perfect Valoran language. My name is Commander Tay of the Earth Deep Space Corps. I come with a proposal from my government. His voice was steady. His eyes met hers without flinching. Nari felt a flicker of something she had not felt in a long time. Curiosity. Speak, human, she said. Tay straightened up. Earth wishes to establish a trade agreement with the Velaran Empire. We offer advanced shield technology in exchange for mining rights in your outer territories. The shields we have developed can withstand solar radiation that would destroy most ships. This would allow your mining fleets to operate in systems currently too dangerous to reach. Around the throne room, advisors whispered to each other. Old Day, the Queen's chief counselor, stepped forward. He was ancient even by Valoran standards, his skin wrinkled and gray. Your Majesty, Day said quietly, the proposal has merit. Their shield technology is indeed impressive. Our scientists have confirmed this. Nari ignored him. She was watching the human. Watching how he stood, how he breathed, how he waited for her response. Most species who came before her throne were nervous. They stammered. They sweated. They looked at the floor or at her feet, anywhere but at her face. This human did none of those things. He stood like a soldier, relaxed but ready. He looked at her like an equal. It annoyed her. You are very confident for a human, Nari said, letting an edge creep into her voice. Your species has been in space for barely a breath of time. You have no great fleets, no conquered worlds, no military might. Why should I care about what you offer? Because it benefits both our peoples, Tay replied simply. Trade is not about who is stronger. It is about mutual gain. Several of the guards hissed at this. To suggest that the mighty Velaran Empire needed anything from humans was an insult. Nari felt her own anger rising, but she kept it controlled. She had ruled for 10 years by being smarter than her emotions. You speak as if we are equals, human. We are not. The Valoran Empire has existed for 3,000 years. We have conquered races that made your ancestors look like insects. What makes you think you can stand in my throne room and speak to me as if you matter? Tay did not look away. Because I do matter, Your Majesty. Every person matters. Every species has something to offer. Yours has strength and honor. Mine has innovation and determination. Together we could both benefit. The throne room went completely silent. No one spoke to Queen Nari like this. No one dared. Nari stood up from her throne. She was over 7 feet tall, towering above the human. Her forearms spread slightly, a gesture of dominance among her people. She walked down the steps slowly, each footfall echoing in the huge chamber. She stopped in front of Tay. Close enough to kill him with one strike. Close enough to see the pulse in his neck, the only sign that he might actually be nervous. I could kill you right now, she said softly. One move and you would be dead before you hit the floor. Your ship would be destroyed. Your government would receive your body as a message. Do you understand this? Yes, Tay said. I understand. And yet you still stand here. Still speak to me as an equal. Still refuse to show proper fear. Fear and respect are not the same thing, Your Majesty. I respect your power. I respect your empire. But I will not pretend to be less than I am to make you feel superior. For a moment, Nari considered killing him. It would be so easy. It would send the right message. It would remind everyone who challenged her that she was not to be questioned. But then she had a better idea. A smile spread across her face, showing teeth that were sharp and white. The guards recognized that smile. It meant someone was about to suffer. I have a proposal for you, Commander Tay, Nari said, returning to her throne. Before we discuss any trade agreement, you must first prove that humanity is worthy of our attention. You must demonstrate that your species deserves a place at the table with the Valoran Empire. Tay nodded slowly. What did you have in mind? A challenge. You will face my greatest warrior in a contest. Any contest you choose. When you lose, and you will lose, you will kneel before this court and publicly acknowledge that humanity is inferior to the Velaran Empire. You will admit that we are your betters in all things, and then perhaps we will consider your trade proposal. The trap was set. There was no way the human could win. No matter what contest he chose, he would face a Velaran warrior, a member of the most dominant species in the galaxy. He would be humiliated, and his species with him. Nari waited for him to refuse, to back down, to show his true weakness. Instead, Tay smiled. I accept your challenge, Your Majesty. The Queen's smile widened. This was going to be entertaining.